Okay, so I want to talk to you today about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has been a big interest in science fiction since the beginning of the 20th century. So you might recognize some of these famous AIs. The first one, HAL 9000 from 2001: Space Odyssey, and then Jarvis from the Iron Man films, Deep Thought from the book The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and then Dr. No from the movie AI. So as we move forward, a lot of these AIs, they're just works of fiction, but AIs are becoming more fact than science fiction. So as they become more apparent in our society, we have to question, are they just new technology or are they alive? So all the way back in 1955, a researcher at Dartmouth named John McCarthy, he wrote a proposal to try to create AI. And then in this proposal, he defined AI by these criteria. He said his goal is to make machines use language, form abstractions and concepts, solve the kinds of problems that were typically reserved for humans, and improve themselves. So these were his initial characteristics for what he would describe to be good AI. So even without a humanoid form, can we say that AI is truly living? So to do this, we'll examine IBM's AI, which is called Watson, and it's famous for winning that Jeopardy game. So Cleland, a researcher at NASA, she set out these criteria for what defines living things. So you can use this to recognize how it relates to Watson. So the first criteria is maintaining homeostasis. So IBM says that, like any other computer, Watson can maintain homeostasis by cooling himself. Say his temperature goes up while he's processing, it has an internal fan, it can cool itself down. So it has some of those similar negative feedback mechanisms as human bodies do. The second thing comprised of cells. He's exempt from biological cells, but as you can see, Watson has 5 separate computer towers. Together, they make one cohesive tissue-like being, so it's the separate cells working all together, which is very similar to how our organs function in cells. The third being exhibits growth. Now, Watson himself can't grow, but if an AI with his sort of intelligence were given appendages, it's possible that he could then build himself a new computer tower and grow in his mind and his physical form. The fourth adapts to environment and also responds to stimuli. So Watson is a learning AI. Anything that he experiences, reads about, learns, he can then extrapolate into useful information to use in later experiences. So if a situation arises which he has experienced before, then he can use his previous knowledge to respond to that stimuli. And then lastly, can reproduce. This is difficult across the board for all AIs. Physically, it's difficult for them to reproduce. But like I said before with growth, if an AI of his intelligence were given some sort of appendage to build something like himself, it is possible that these smart engines could build duplicates of themselves. So if there are duplicates, it is possible that they could together form some sort of social system. So Knox is a researcher, and he stated that as an AI teaches themselves about emotions and consciousness, they can discover these qualities within themselves. So since they have the information available to learn about consciousness and learn about emotions, it's possible that they can someday emulate those emotions and maybe express them as their own emotions. So let's look further at consciousness. Consciousness is defined as the fact of awareness by the mind of itself and the world around it. So to show an example of this, I looked at Rensselaer's Polytechnic Institute. They made these 3 robots with artificial intelligence systems, and they gave it a simple test. So the test says that each of them will be given a pill, and since they can't swallow, they were just given the pill by tapping them on the head. 2 of the pills are an active agent that renders them silent, and the third is a placebo, so it has no effect. So they gave each one of them a different pill, and the third one here on the right, after giving the pill, when he was asked, did you receive the pill? what pill did you receive? He stood up and said, I don't know. And then upon hearing his own voice, he waved his arm like, no way, never mind. And he said, sorry, I know now. I was able to prove that I was not given the dumbing pill. So this shows that even though it's a simple test, by providing the AI can recognize his own voice as opposed to the voices of the others. Upon hearing that, he could extrapolate this back to the original question of asking, were you given this pill? And he could say no, that he was given the placebo, because he realized that he could speak. So this is a pretty high functioning level of self-awareness for most AIs, and really a big key in the form of consciousness. So if AIs have consciousness, if they're also able to communicate amongst each other and be able to recognize what's their own voice, what's another one's voice, then can they possibly create culture? So I looked at 7 characteristics of culture outlined by Phil Highland, and he said that culture includes social organization, customs and traditions, religion, language, arts and literature, forms of government, and economic systems. Now some of these are kind of difficult to imagine with artificial intelligence because they may not even have a physical form. But some of these have already been shown in artificial intelligence systems, such as language and arts and literature, and I will get to that later. But some of the ones they're still working on include the social organization and government. President Obama himself has actually shown interest in creating an AI to assist the government. So this is a new emerging field. Some of these other aspects of culture that have been untouched so far by AI, including the religion, customs, and economic systems, we're not sure if they would be able to participate in these sort of aspects of culture, but even if they were, it's not very likely that this would even be applicable to AIs. Like, even if they can learn about religion, there's no means to say that they would believe in that faith. And finally, the artistic AI. So, some of these artistic qualities have been known to be strictly a human quality of life. So the ability to use imagination and the skill to express your emotions through thought and art. And while we think of AIs kind of lack the creativity and more engines to just regurgitate things that they've already learned, they've actually shown that AIs were able to create new art based on what they've seen and experienced. So there's 2 paintings on either side. They're digital art that was created by an AI while it was, quote, dreaming. So it was put in a rest mode after the end of the day. And in the morning, it was able to identify things that it had seen throughout the day, things that it had learned about throughout the day, and sort of extrapolate them together to make this art. You see the one on the left is sort of like a cityscape, and then in the sky area, there's like the face of a dog, and it's all sort of like combined together. And it really provides interesting insight how the AI can think. Because then you see the picture on the right, it looks sort of like a musician possibly playing some sort of instrument. This is replicated like some sort of MC escalation. So it's a really interesting form of art. And also, AIs have created novels. And when I first read this, I thought it would be some sort of nonsensical, like just blurb of words. But actually, this AI in Japan was able to make it to a very high level of qualifications for a literary award. They said the plot was very well written, and they did not even know that it was not written by a human. They said the only thing that was lacking that kept it below its qualifications to be a great novel was its character development, which I thought was interesting because the AIs like lack the insight to really see how to develop the human emotion, how to develop what their thinking was, the thought process behind their actions. And so that's really the only part of the novel that was lacking. So then also music. An AI at Sony, they created to try to make new music. So the first song it wrote was called Daddy's Car, which they said was an upbeat, sort of catchy tune reminiscent of early 60s pop, like the Beatles. It took some arrangement because it made a bunch of different instruments and it just kind of compile them together. So I had to arrange, of course, where the instruments were playing in each one. So that did require some human intervention. But the melodies itself were completely AI generated and completely unique. The second song I made is called Mr. Shadow, which I said was reminiscent of like Irving Berlin or Cole Porter and those kind of musicians. But all of the music that it created, all of the arts that it created, have been completely unique to that AI. And lastly, an AI called Benjamin has written a screenplay, and some actors were kind enough to play it out for them, as shown in the image below. The screenplay was called Sunscreen, and I will admit it's kind of nonsensical at times. The order of the words just doesn't sound like a regular sentence structure, but in some ways it can be compared to sort of slam poetry with the randomness and the offbeat cadences and things like that. But it has been a strange way to assess human language, but the AI is giving a lot of insight into how it thinks by the way it forms these sentences, forms this art. So these huge leaps in AI technology, they can be a bit frightening for some. In fact, Stephen Hawking said in an interview that he warns of the dangers of AI and how people are making it more and more realistic, more and more human-like. And he stated that like the intelligence grew out of the Homo sapiens and how that intelligence allowed them to outcompete the Neanderthals and essentially wipe them out, it's possible that this new form of life, this new technology that's growing, it could overcome human education and eventually outwit its creators. So the next possible step in evolution is